Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Creating New Together. Thank you for joining. This week, we're going to be talking about our aha moments, coming off from what we talked about before with regards to self-care and ideas and suggestions around that. This week, we're going to be exploring our aha moments. So feel free to add yours into the comments. We look forward to hearing about them. We have here today Sonia and I, and we also have two special guests. We have Haresh from Soothing Soul. He is a mentor and healer, and he's coming to us from Bali. And we also have Tania. She's a medieval illuminator and heraldic artist. She's coming to us all the way from Finland. So thank you for joining us. And I was thinking before we begin that we just take a few moments just to take a few deep breaths and just settle into this moment, having this time for ourselves. Just simply a few deep breaths in, maybe on the count of 4, breathing in, holding it for 4, breathing out for 4, and just letting all our energy settle. How's that for everyone? Everyone good?
Yes, that's really lovely. Thank you, Anita.
Yep,
Yes, thanks.
that's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about aha moment, I have a discovery recently is how in the past I used to use grocery shopping as my excuse to avoid doing something I don't like or to do something that I actually need to do, but actually I find them boring. So I would always say I need to go and grab something. But because during the COVID-19 we have partial lockdown, so we can't go out that easy. And that's the moment it really hit me that how often I say I need to go and grab something to avoid actually what I'm actually need to do here. So for me, when it hits me, it really helps me to stay focused, and it really also helps me to understand what is it I don't like about what I'm going to do. And the best part is I save money.
Perfect.
So what about you, Tanya? What is your aha moment?
Well, I had many to choose from, but I really wanted to share this one because it's probably one of my most special aha moments. And it happened many years ago now when I first became interested in spirituality. And I was beginning to explore things. Everything was new and exciting. Was reading everything I could get my hands on, but a lot of it was theoretical. It was just words on a page. But one evening, I had been out and I was coming back to my car, and it was like very dark and very quiet. And just before I got to my car, I heard my name being called, but it wasn't being called by a person. It was just being called by everything. And I heard it being called from the rocks and from the trees and from every blade of grass. And as I looked up into the sky, I could hear my name being called by the stars and the planets and everything. And it was an extraordinary moment because it was the universe teaching me that everything is one, that everything is connected, and that I was part of the stars and the grass and the rocks. And it was such a special moment that it happened so quickly, but it changed the way I saw everything. And so it was a huge aha moment for me in understanding that everything is one.
Wow, that's very beautiful. That's very deep aha moment. Yes. And what about you, Anita?
So My aha moment through this whole lockdown, similar to what Tania was saying with regards to where everything kind of stops and stands still, I felt that it's that tap on the shoulder from spirit or your intuition or just something that says slow down, stop, have a look. It felt for me that this whole experience, even though it's been changing, there's been practical aspects through it. There's it's moved into the enormity of the opportunity that I feel I've been given and that we've all been given, just to stop and do a stock take on different areas of our lives, on different levels, and to see also within who I'm being within me and within it, and then what's the effect of that outwardly. So the size, the wheel for the mouse has been taken away. So there's a real exploration of wow, and just taking that time to see what is this all about and what can I do with it. So that's been mine. And how about you, Haresh? What's been your aha moment for?
My aha moment's been something where, I recognize before the lockdown, life was quite automatic. Things landed on my lap and I just did what landed on my lap. It was about me. It was about routine. And of course, what happens with that is there were so many distractions. There's always a to-do list. There's always something to complete. So during the lockdown, when I was pretty much at home for 2 months continuously without stepping out, I realized that I want to actually build and create something. I want to do something that brings me and other people together. And it took me a while to recognize that. I started having conversations with Pia, my wife, in the mornings. And as we were chatting, I came to see that more and more as well while talking to her. And what I realized is, when I look at things around me, there's a lot going on in the world right now. But even prior to that, even when the virus started, it's like, okay, I have 30, 40 odd years remaining. When I leave, what kind of a world I want to be a part of. And it's not about going there and changing the world, but looking at, if I want to build something, then feel joyful, feel optimistic, feel hopeful every day and live that way. What can I do within me and around me that would create that? And of course, if other people want to join and be a part of that, that's great. But I really want to have something more in my life than just the routine and the me. I want others to be a part of it. I want to do something that brings people together. And I want to really, like something that comes from the heart, not from the routine and the mundane. So that's what I found. And I mean, I'm still going through it. It's not like I've had that aha moment. I haven't had the ideas for it yet, but I think it's like it's moving and shifting within me. So I'm like kind of rolling forward. So yeah, that's what it's been for me.
Yeah, I resonate with what you're saying with regards to how it hasn't the process isn't fully finished, and the lockdown and the whole situation still continuing, and seeing how things have evolved, because in the beginning it's practical, and then there's there are ways that we can be of assistance. So there was another aha moment for me. It doesn't matter kind of the circumstance or the limitations we're under, there's always a way to be of assistance somehow. And yeah, just that evolution and that exploration of what's coming to us is been wonderful. So Haresh, what do you feel you'd suggest, or any ideas, or is there a new routine or a habit that you're working with following that feel that you have?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. I feel the one thing that helps me most is when I wake up in the morning. I sit a few moments in silence and connect to my heart. I set the intent to connect to my soul, and then I just listen. And whether I hear anything or not, what I find during the rest of the day is that somehow comes through my energy. There are moments when I go into a situation where I don't know what's going to happen, how it's going to turn out, but something intuitively says, do this, and that's how it comes together. The other thing I found is spending more time listening to others as well, because usually my mind is full of chatter about what I want, what I would like to do. But what I find is by spending more time when I'm talking to someone, if I'm spending more time listening to them as well, somehow they say something that helps me see more of who I want to be and where I want to go. So it's quite fantastic that way. So these are just two things I've noticed. I mean, there are a couple of others, but I'd say these two at this point in time are the most significant for me. So yeah.
Tania, I would like to ask you, so after you have this big aha and deep aha moment, how has it changed you, and how has it changed you in a practical way?
I guess it means that when I interact with other people, when I interact with nature, it has helped me not to see myself as separate, to see, even if I come across someone who's really annoying or really irritating or hard to be around, I look at them and I say, okay, that's on the surface, but underneath, we're the same. And we're connected, and we're all part of the one thing. And I'm very blessed here in Finland to be very close to nature. There's lots of very beautiful forests close to my home, so I often walk in the forest, and it is beautiful to just sit and be in nature and not see it as something separate to me, but see it as something that is a part of me and I am a part of it. And I think in practical terms, when it comes to people, it helps me to be more tolerant and understanding of people, and to not reject them outright because of perhaps behavior that's not appropriate, or what they're saying or doing grates on me. I still see that connection underlying all of that. So I think that's a very practical way that it's useful for me.
Thank you. Oh, I just want to let the audience know, so if you have any questions, any comments, any experience, especially for Haresh and Tania, please feel free to comment, and I'm sure they're very happy to answer your questions, or maybe share some steps that they find it very useful for them to sustain the change. So before that, I also have another question. This Tanya, you talk about the like when you get angry, you notice, but sometimes we do get angry. I personally get angry, and what about that? So how do you sustain that?
Sorry, you're talking to me?
So you talk about when you're getting angry, you remind yourself the aha moment, the change. So sometimes you do get angry. So how do you detach yourself from these emotions?
I don't get very angry very often, but yeah, sometimes I will get slightly irritated by things or by people, but I guess I have a lot of filters that don't allow me to do big outbursts of things, of words or emotions. And I think about things quite carefully before I say or do anything. And so there's always that thought, before anger just bursts out, I have this filter of, okay, is that going to be helpful? Just remember that person, what you're seeing of them is just their personality, and it's not who they really are. And are they doing that because they're in pain or because they're feeling frightened? So there's all of those kind of filters on me. that stop me just blur at people.
Thank you.
So, Haresh and Tania, do you feel there's some trial and error with regards to connecting with the aha moment and exploring it further?
Definitely. For me, I would say so, because right now what I have is just a desire, a longing, and a feeling that this is where I want to be, this is who I wish to be. So it's kind of gathering momentum inside, and it's taking its course. Looking at it objectively and saying, how can I collaborate with this desire to do something and be something more? And there will be mistakes, there will be misinterpretations. I think that's bound to happen. But it's about engaging. So I really resonate with what Tania said just now as well, because when I suggest, one of the things I said earlier was about listening to people, and listening to people in a way where it's objective and not subjective can be very difficult at times, because I have to then learn not to take things personally. And that's an ongoing process for me. And not allowing myself to get caught up in taking things personally and being totally objective in what the other person's saying. That's an ongoing process. So there's trial and error in that as well. Situations like that do arise. So yeah, definitely. Trial and error.
Talking about engaging, we have a comment from Doris. So we would like to know what Doris said. Oh, Doris said the knowing that we are all part of one is very humbling. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been part of the theme of this whole period. It's almost like a message from Spirit and to all of us. We are all in this together, and we've seen through this circumstance that the world is connected, and everything we do does have an effect in ways that we couldn't even imagine, but we're seeing it in effect through this circumstance.
And too, like there's a lot of current stuff going on about the color of someone's skin. And it's interesting that there's so much focus on that at the moment. And, before COVID happened, there was a lot of stuff happening about what gender you are. And it's like there's, there's so much of this division of, are you black or are you white? Are you male or female or somewhere in between, and all of those things are so surface, they're so irrelevant, that if people could truly understand that beneath that surface, we are all connected, we are all one, and we're all part of each other, then that hatred and that division could vanish in a moment.
And with that, one of my aha moments was how to have discussions, how to listen and how to share, and to do that without digging our heels in, and just allowing it to talk about the stuff that is important to us in ways that it is. So,
yes. And talking about discussions, I just noticed that Ola has some comments. Yes. So a bit like Sonia and me. Sonia, I had an aha moment also around grocery shopping. So I was shown a habit I have of not buying things for myself when I needed them, things specifically for me as opposed to for the family, and that I wasn't taking care of myself. So I changed that by buying double the amount from then on. That's a brilliant way.
And I've realized how much less I actually need across the board as well. It's like we don't need, we can, in the piece that we've been given in the opportunity, it's what do I actually need, what do I don't need, and life is so much more peaceful and simpler. And are you finding that, Haresh and Tania?
My life actually changed very little during COVID because I work from home anyway. The only difference really for me was that I had my husband and my daughter at home with me, but I think one of the big things that's changed for me, which was my original aha moment, which I was going to talk about, was that I've started working less and given myself permission to have more fun and reclaim my weekends and start taking up some hobbies that I've wanted to do for many, many years, but never allowed myself to do. So for me, COVID has been about finding the balance between work and pleasure and having fun too. Yeah.
Excellent. It looks like Olive wants to share some practical idea with us. So I found writing down your ideas as they come in a notebook so you can keep track and watch your progress like a project. Oh, I absolutely can resonate. Bit like a New Year's resolution idea, one habit that does suit how you want to going forward in our new world post-COVID. How do you all feel? It's such a great practical ideas, isn't it, Haresh?
Yeah, I think journaling is definitely something really helpful. It's one of the tools I've used as well during the lockdown and even prior to that. And I find similar to what Olive said, that when I journal on a daily basis, there's a theme building up. And the nice thing about journaling is I found that it doesn't get me into my head, because, when you're doing it purely from your head, logic comes in and says it has to be this way and that way, But when I'm journaling, something might come up, something just pops up that I never thought of before, and it's lateral, it's not literal. So I find journaling really helpful. So yeah, definitely agree with all of them that. Yeah.
And we also have a comment from Amanda, and that's a big aha, Tania. Finding time for non-work hobbies and fun is important.
Yep, it's related very much to the self-care talk that was, the last one, where often as women in particular, looking after the family and then working as well, it's not always easy to find time to just spend on your own, doing something that you like. So I've started taking up doing mosaics, and I've started sewing and doing embroidery and playing with color in different ways and just having fun.
So you talked a bit before about balance. How are you recognizing when maybe you're not in balance, or how do you recognize that and then bring yourself back?
When I am in balance, I feel incredibly joyful, and I just have this amazing feeling of serenity. And when I'm out of balance, I'll feel anxious or nervous, or I'll worry about things. So for me, there's quite a contrast between.
That's your clue. Yeah. And Haresh, and anyone else?
I found that there's two things that really help. One is breathing to the count of 4, as you actually started with the beginning. That definitely helps calm. And I love walking in nature, and I think that's something Tania had mentioned, that just going out, being in Bali, there's a lot of beautiful rice fields. So just going out and seeing the rice fields and the clouds, it's really beautiful. I was living in Hong Kong before. There are a lot of high rises there. So being in a place where you can actually see the sky and appreciate it is quite a change. So that's beautiful as well.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I also like going to the nature, and I also noticed that when I'm doing something I really enjoy, that's the moment I got my aha moments, because it gives me an inspiration or gives me an idea what to do. What about you, Anita?
Probably meditation is my go-to. That just seems to let everything else fall away, and there's just that silence and exploring that within.
Excellent. So I thank you very much for joining us. And actually, I feel today's topics ties in very beautifully with what we talked at the beginning. We talked about the aha moment, and then we talk about the self-care and the new, which we have been we have done last time. So thank you very much for joining us. And I would like to ask the audience if you have any brilliant ideas, comments, or topics that you would like to discuss, or any expertise that you would like to share and would like to be on the live panel, please send us a message. If you have any questions for Haresh and Tania in particular, or in general, please leave us a comment. And really, thank you very much for everyone for joining us tonight. And have a good evening or day wherever you are. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.